आत्मा रामानन्दरमणा आत्मा रामानन्दरमणा अच्युत केशव हरिनारायण अच्युत केशव हरिनारायण भवभयहरणा वन्दित चरणा भवभयहरणा वन्दित चरणा रघुकुलभूषण राजीवलोचन रघुकुलभूषण राजीवलोचन आदिनारायण अनन्तशयना आदिनारायण अनन्तशयना सच्चिदानन्द सत्यनारायण सच्चिदानन्द सत्यनारायण आत्मा रामानन्दरमणा अच्युत केशव हरिनारायण आत्मा रामा आनन्दरमणा 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 आञ्जनेय हनुमन्ता रामदूत मां पाहि आञ्जनेय हनुमन्ता रामदूत मां पाहि आञ्जनेय मम बन्धो आञ्जनेय दयासिन्धो आञ्जनेय मम बन्धो आञ्जनेय दयासिन्धो आञ्जनेय रघुरामा आञ्जनेय परन्दामा आञ्जनेय रघुरामा आञ्जनेय परन्धामा आञ्जनेय हनुमन्ता रामदूत मां पाहि आञ्जनेय हनुमन्ता रामदूत मां पाहि आञ्जनेय मम बन्धो आञ्जनेय दयासिन्धो आञ्जनेय मम बन्धो आञ्जनेय दयासिन्धो मम बन्धो 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 दयासिन्धो
There is time for one more. Maybe Veera Maruti or something.
Okay. वीरमारुति गम्भीरमारुति वीरमारुति गम्भीरमारुति वीरमारुति अति धीरमारुति धीरमारुति अति धीरमारुति गीतमारुति संगीतमारुति गीतमारुति संगीतमारुति दूतमारुति रामदूतमारुति दूतमारुति रामदूतमारुति भक्तमारुति परमभक्तमारुति भक्तमारुति परमभक्तमारुति वीरमारुति गम्भीरमारुति वीरमारुति गम्भीरमारुति गम्भीरमारुति गम्भीरमारुति
Oh, thank you for the
Pranam.
curtains, Chitra. Thank you
It
for
looks very
sending me the
nice.
curtains. Yeah.
Looks very nice, Swaminiji.
Yeah, it's all because of Chitra. She sent it to me. So, very nice.
Very nice, Swaminiji.
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Namaste to all. And we have been looking at this last portion of mantra 5, and we'll repeat that just so that we can locate ourselves and come back to these words. Atma va are drashtavyah shrotavyah mantavyah nididhyasitavyah maitreyi atmano va are darshanena shravanena matya vijnanena idagum sarvam viditam. Concluding the thesis statement, the Mahapratignya, Yajnavalkya has some very important words to offer. So the first one we have already started to see, Atma vai are drashtavyah. And in fact, we are stuck at tavya. Forget the drish dhatu, or forget man dhatu and dhya dhatu. We forget all that. We are stuck at tavya, to be done. To You must do this. And do what? See. And and this is what we talked about in the earlier class, is that this the force of this injunction, and prohibitions, they are better, what is that, they are swasthane vishishyante. Certain things look better in their own places, you know they are better suited to the first portion of the Veda, the injunction and the prohibitions. They're not there for Vedanta. Vedanta is more for ko vidhihi, ko nishedha. What is the, what is the injunction for a person of knowledge who knows, aham ayam asmi iti purushah yah janati, the one who knows? What is the injunction? What is the prohibition? The all injunctions and prohibitions are to make this person come to a place of dharma in their own life. And for the person who has already internalized dharma, then what is the injunction? Where is the prohibition? No injunction, no prohibition. Simply the person just is. And so therefore, you know the contention was, from all these, we saw them in, like vultures, trying to you know birds of prey, trying to swallow up Vedanta by saying, your atma, what kind of an atma is your atma that needs some more doing? You know what, I'm sick of the doing, and here you're making me do. To which, we said that here it is not away from you. It is not an action like bring me water, bring me a glass of water, which is away from me. This is not what the whole thing is. So the Atma is more, it is there, but it is obvious, and it is not so obvious that one actually misses it. It is right there, it is obvious, it is evident. It is the self evident self which everyone takes for granted, and in the process of taking for granted, completely misses the whole picture. So, therefore, the injunction, see the Atma. See means know. Know it as good as seeing it. And the second reason why the injunction or this darshana vidhi, the injunction to see the Atma is there, is because, Yajnavalkya wants Maitreyi and thereby all of us, to understand a very important fact. Even though the see, drish, is a verb, it is not an action. Seeing is not an action. And if you are shocked, then you just have to you have to see this fact that in seeing there is no choice. Eyes are open, correct, and there is something to see in front of you. Eyes are open, there is something to see in front of you. Sight has to take place, sight will take place. And I've given you this example many times. And if I tell you, please see my face, look at my face, but do not look at my hand, you will not be able to oblige me. Eyes are open, and of course we have to account for they are functioning properly. You have your glasses on, or whatever it is that is needed to, you know the cataracts have been taken care of, and then definitely the eyes will see. So seeing is not an action. Yes, there might be a little bit of an intention behind the sight. we, you know like, in the sense, I decide to see, you may argue, but most often that is also a moot point, that is also not the case. Because if you only saw the things that you decided to see, what about all the other things that you saw that you did not want to see? Like trauma, and some child, unfortunately, god forbid, coming under a car or something like that. You saw it, you didn't want to see it. Who wants to see such a gory sight? Nobody. But it happened, and you happened to be right there. Your eyes were open, you had your glasses on, and you could not help looking at this. This itself shows seeing is not the same kind of an action like any other action, bringing water, taking something from here to there, doing something. So, what constitutes an action? An action is that which has the will behind it. That which is will based is called action. A kriya, an action is that which has the, will. It is pushed by the will. Sometimes the will's, it's not a will, it's a won't, but still it's an aspect of the will. Okay. So it is a will. And so then, if you say, I'm going to the movies, I'm going to the mall, there is a desire, and in order to fulfill the desire, the will kicks in. The will becomes the medium for fulfilling this desire, and the will becomes the bridge between the desire and the action. So there is a will to do this, and then the will points out and plans what all to do. Very, very nice. The will points out everything and plots how to go, where to go, how to get from one place to another. All these things, the will plots and plans. And then what? Then you go there, or you decide not to go there. So many things can come in the way. Then you go halfway there, and then, a friend says, you meet a friend who changes the plan and says, let's go for dinner instead. Okay. Again, the will, changes. It's plotting, it's changing its mind, and then, there is that whole thing. So, you know, in knowing the Atma, what choice do you have? What choice do you have? Well, I have gone many lifetimes without knowing the Atma, and there are multitudes of people in the universe who are still living without knowing the Atma. And they seem to be fine. If one were to say that, we would say, no problem, go for it, have fun. Be like those many people. No, but I suffer from anxiety, I suffer from sorrow, I suffer from depression, I suffer from fear. I suffer from self doubt. I suffer from a sense of insecurity centered on the self. If one were to say all that, then we have to say, okay, then you really don't, it's a choiceless choice. Moksha is a choiceless choice simply because that one is hardwired to desire to be free. And and Vedanta is that body of knowledge which just indicates that you are already free. You see? You see how the connection is? It's so beautiful. So then, when Yajnavalkya gives the injunction to Maitreyi, Are Maitreyi, please see the Atma. So, what is he actually saying? He is saying that, you really don't have a choice. If the eyes are open, and if there is something to see, sight has to take place. Here, Atma is not an object of sight. Atma is not an object at all to begin with. So, Atma is the very subject. And so, the knowledge of the subject one has to expose to, one has to subject oneself to the knowledge of the subject in order to gain the Atma, to know the Atma. This is what he's saying. So seeing brings in, a whole gamut of discussions, because we saw the difference between, what happens here: pramata, knower; prameya, object to be known; and pramana, the means of knowledge. So if I want to see, something, I want to see a flower, I want to look at a flower, and then so I am the looker, the knower, the potential knower. The flower is prameya, the object to be known. And I use the pramana called sight because that is what illumines shapes, and forms and color. Sight is what, brings to light color and what else? Shapes, form and color. So therefore there is a triputi, there is a what is that, a tripod of these three things coming together: pramata, prameya, pramana. Now, in the matter of knowing the atma, who is the pramata? Me. Who is the prameya? Me. And what is the pramana? The pramana is also not outside of me. And then so therefore, it is something which is, it's not, everything is I alone. Pramana is not, separate from the atma. Prameya is not separate from the atma. And pramata, of course, is not separate from the atma. The atma is that which sustains the pramata, sustains the prameya, and sustains the pramana without being any one of them. This is something to internalize. So the Atma, without being Pramata, lends its existence to uphold or the manifestation, the rise of the Pramata. It watches and it allows the Pramata to rise. It illumines the Prameya, and it illumines the means of knowledge called Pramana, without becoming either the Pramata or the Prameya or the Pramana. Very beautiful. It sustains all three, but it transcends all of them. Like even the ocean, which sustains many waves, big and small. And then, if somebody asks, is the ocean the wave? Yes. Is Pramana Atma? Yes. Is Prameya Atma? Yes. Is Pramata Atma? Yes. Is Atma Pramata? No. Is Atma Prameya? No. Is Atma Pramana? No. Is the wave ocean? Yes. Is wave number two ocean? Yes. Wave number three, is it the ocean? Yes. Is the ocean wave number one? No. Is the ocean wave number two? No. And then we can wave goodbye to this kind of an argument. It's only one sided. Atma is always only one sided. Everything is Atma, but Atma is not any one thing. This has to be known. Therefore, drashtavya. You have to have, in other words, Yajnavalkya is saying you need a means of knowledge. The means of knowledge, is going to be elucidated in the next injunction, Shrotavya. You know, but you need a means of knowledge. Just like to see color, you need eyes. To hear music, you need ears. And then you know, to taste pakodas, bondas. What do you need? You need a tongue, jihva, and you also need your olfactory nerves in working order. Yes. Because if this corona, unfortunately, temporarily one loses the sense of smell. So if you don't have the sense of smell, everything tastes like cardboard. You may as well, buy something. What, open the wrapper, throw away that thing, and eat the wrapper. It's the same, if you don't have a sense of smell. So, this nasika, the sense of smell and the organ of smell, which is the nose, and the tongue, they are great friends. They go hand in hand. So, when the pakoda smell comes, especially on a rainy day, aha, something nice and fried, it's what is that? It's called Indian comfort food, you know, and then that nice smell comes, and the nose first illumines this. Aha, something is happening. And the tongue, like Pavlov's dog, responds by drooling. you know so they go together. And then we have, of course, ears that illumine sounds. What is that? Oh, I think that's a car from a distance. It's a car. And people who are enthusiasts of the car, they can tell. They can tell what car is coming. They can actually discern the make. Amazing. And then when they had this, what is that, this hybrid cars, they were not making any noise at all. And then people got worried because they couldn't hear them coming. So now they have to put some artificial noise in the hybrid cars. This Prius and all this Toyota Prius and all, it never used to make a sound. And now they have to put some sound in it so that people know that you are coming. And so, like this, sound ears, you can discern the various notes of music. You can discern the various, the sound of the tire burning up on the road. You can discern the make of the car just by how it does. And then you can discern who is coming, in the family, who has entered the room merely by their footsteps. Heavy footsteps, light footsteps, lopsided footstep sounds you can hear. This is the work of the ears. And then what else is left out? The sense of touch. These days they have, they have all these bouquets, right? And then most of them are made of plastic, satin, whatever, I don't know what. And they have gotten very good at it. All non biodegradable stuff, okay? The bouquets are made of, unlike the flowers. And so they have become very good at it. So when you see from a distance, an arrangement has been made, and then you're looking at it from a distance, you cannot make out at all. You say, oh, how did they get roses at this time of the year? Are they real? And then there are too many people there and you don't want to offend the host, so you just kind of shimmy to the to the area where the roses are. And then when no one is looking, you take a quick whiff, maybe by smell. I can discern these roses. But these the current day roses have no smell. Rose has no smell because it's all hybridized. This the little bit of that cutting, this cutting, and everything. So there is no smell. Only the wild roses and the natural ones, they have smell. So the eyes gave way. They could not, they came back and they said, we cannot find out, what this rose is. And the ears went. And the ears, of course, tried to sort of look for some conversation about the roses, and nobody was talking about them, so ears came back. The sense of smell went, that also came back. Could not tell whether it was a, Ishvara made rose or a rose made by, you know, a person whose brain was made by Ishvara anyway. So it doesn't matter. So was it directly made by Ishvara or not? So then again, when no, you look to the left, you look to the right, you don't want to appear as though you're ruining the arrangement. When no one is looking, you just go up and then you touch. Now that is what, when you touch the real rose, real meaning empirical rose, that is not man made, woman made, then you are in touch with Bhagavan. You have touched Ishvara. It's amazing. No matter whether they put some fragrance on it, whether they use the softest silk or the satin or velvet, they haven't been able to replicate the touch of the petal of the rose. Ishvara has kept that copyright with himself. He's not going to give it right now. you know Maybe later, some other time, it may become evident, but right now it's not happening. you know so so therefore what? So therefore, this is what is called mula pramanani, the five main pramanas that we have. Pramanas means the ways of knowing, the five ways of knowing that which we operate and with the help of which we live in the universe. These are it. And you don't say which five. The five sense organs, they are the main ways of of interacting with, sensing this world, and having a relationship with the world. And we see this in small children. There is what is called the oral stage. Anything that they pick up, you know yeah, swaha, this is what it is there in the swaha stage. Anything just goes in. So the mother and the father have to be very vigilant, and then they have to pry these little hands and shake it off, and keep looking, so that they are safe, they don't swallow something dangerous. But they're not always swallowing. The swallowing is mostly accidental, I think. Maybe they are startled and the babies just swallow as a reflex action. But they are using the tongue to know, because that's the only way they are relating to the world. Mother's milk, that's all it is. So the tongue is what is their source of nurturance, and that's the main thing. The eyes are not fully developed. We hear that until 6 months the eyes are still, they could be kind of hazy for many children. The ears are there, the sounds are there, but the child doesn't cannot discern what it means. But the tongue is very active because it uses the tongue to get sustenance. So everything goes through the mouth, and because it wants to find out what this is. And so this is what the whole thing is. And then after a while, then you get into, then you get into some kind of a research mode where you're using all the five sense organs all the time. And this is what is called pramanani. So, a few things we should know about these means of knowledge, general things, before we go any further. First thing is that, the means of knowledge, each means of knowledge is a raja in its own realm. It does not compete with other means of knowledge, and neither does it, invalidate what some other means of knowledge has justified, has stood witness to. Like, what is seen by the eyes? If the eyes say this is a red rose, the ears cannot negate it, because the ears don't have access to the redness or the roseness of the rose. So the eyes say what? This is idam, this is a red rose. And if the ears say I beg to differ, then we have a problem. This never happens. And the ears discern certain notes of music, and the ears therefore conclude that the ears bring this knowledge of the notes to the mind, And the mind says, this is raga hamsadhvani. It's a particular name for a raga. This is raga hamsadhvani. And then so the ear says that. And at that time the eyes cannot say, what are you talking about? How can it be hamsadhvani? No, eyes and ears don't fight, because they are like independent kings, ruling over their own realm. Sometimes they confer, sometimes each one complements the other. That's a different thing. But each one has its job, which it does, very, very studiously. And so, this is the first thing we should know about pramanas in general, that they cannot negate one another. What one pramana reveals cannot be negated by another pramana, because that pramana alone has access to that, to reveal that particular thing. What is revealed by inference, cannot be negated by upama or simile, as we are going to see. So each one is in a king, in its own realm. Number two, the second thing to know about pramanas in general is that if there is something to know and the means of knowledge is right there, knowledge will take place. Pramana does not involve the free will. The exercise of the free will is not involved in the operation of the pramana. The operation happens. And so, therefore, you cannot say, I will to know. There is no will in knowing. Otherwise, you would not know so many things which are unpleasant, but you do know things that are unpleasant. How did you come upon that knowledge? You could not help but see. You could not help but hear. If you're passing by and somebody is talking something about you, you were not planning to stop, but you heard your name and then you kind of stopped and the footsteps naturally slowed down. And you heard that somebody was saying some bad things about you and somebody else was concurring. And they were whispering, so you couldn't really discern whose voices they were. But then they came out of the room and you saw them, you hid behind the door and you saw them leave. They happened to be your closest friends. And now you're hurt. Why are you hurt? Because you could not help but know this. You could not help but hear this. There is zero will in knowing. If the means of knowledge, which is what pramana, and that the thing that is to be revealed, the vastu, prameya, are, face to face, knowledge has to take place. And here we can take a lot of heart. Oh my God, this is so wonderful. We can take great heart in knowing that, this is a possibility. Meaning, Vedanta, moksha is a possibility. Because no matter how, think about this is huge. No matter how resistant you are, no matter how, all the inner children are screaming, crying, and saying, I want out of this. Let me out of Vedanta. I don't want this. Knowledge does take place. Thank God. Thank God your raga dveshas can't come in. This is the the full weight of the second point that I'm making, the general point about pramana. The first point is it's a king. Each pramana is a king in its own right, and it cannot contradict or confirm something that is being understood by another pramana. And the second point is there is no will involved in the operation of the pramana. If the pramana is there and if something is there to be known, prameya and pramana come face to face, knowledge will take place. There is zero will in knowledge. And so even though technically the word to know is a verb, jñā dhatu, it's a verb. In fact, it's a, what is it called? Sakarmaka dhatu, transitive verb. You have to go back to fourth grade grammar to recall the concept of transitive verb. Yeah, transitive verb is that which begs a question, what? You know, Supposing I say I sit, you cannot say what do you sit? That, it doesn't do that. I simply sit, you know. But then if I say I know, then immediately the person will ask, what is it that you know? So the transitive verb is that which has something else for its object. So jñā, to know, is a transitive verb. And it's a verb, it meaning it has the accoutrements of action. But it is knowing is not an action at all. Knowledge happens. That's a nice little poster for a Vedantin. Knowledge happens. Yeah. So this is very nice. Knowledge happens. It just happens. It just is. And so the and then this is something which is so important. Then number 3, very important to know generally about pramanas. You cannot negate a pramana before it proves itself. The proof of the pramana is what is in its revelation. And even though we have a word, dushta pramana, dushta pramana is a faulty pramana. Dushta means, faulty or mischievous, full of doshas. A fallacious pramana, full of fallacies. So even though we have a term, dushta pramana, if a pramana filled with fallacies, a wrong pramana, that is rarely the case. That is sometimes the case when you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, like some of these purva pakshis do. you know like, I'll give you an example of a dushta pramana. It's an example by these nayayikas and all these people. So they will say, you know idam jagat sakartrikam. Idam jagat sakartrikam. This jagat is so vast, so huge. It must have somebody who created this jagat. There must be something, some force that you know created this jagat. Idam jagat sakartrikam. This is the logician's argument. You know, and then and then the logician takes it further, and the logician says, idam jagat aneka kartrikam, meaning it's not just sakartrikam, it doesn't have one karta, but it has many kartas. Are, how did you come to this conclusion that it has many kartas when the Upanishad says ekameva advitiyam sat? There is only one non-dual sat, Upanishad is saying, and you are saying this jagat has many kartas. Why not we say? Are, are you out of your mind? you know what do you mean it has many kartas? Why? And the logician will then give the logic for this argument. Idam jagat aneka kartrikam, anekatmakatvat, because there are many and varied things. Prasadadivat, like even a palace or a mansion. So if you want to build a mansion, you can't do it all by yourself, even if you're an engineer. First you have to hire an architect, and the architect will bring up all the whatever blueprints, and then you have to hire a mason, then you have to hire somebody who will see the project through, then of course come carpenters and people who lay the brickwork and all these things, and then whatever it is, brick, wood, sticks, whatever you're using, and then after that you need painters, then finally you need electricians, plumbers, everybody. So if a mansion needs 20 people to build it, minimum, including, all the laborers, everybody, people who are actually doing the grunt work, you know, if a mansion needs that many people, then imagine the whole jagat, how many people it will need. So this is their logic. Here it is dushta pramana. It's the wrong use of the pramana. Logic cannot be a pramana for that which is not available for objectification. Ishvara is not available for establishment, through logic. Logic is not a pramana. Logic means inference. Ishvara is not deduced. Ishvara is revealed by the Shruti. The Shruti itself becomes a pramana in its own right, and that we will see, very soon. But for now, what we have to see is that this, the point, the third point that we are making here is that the pramana proves itself. The proof of the pramana is in its revelation. What it reveals is the proof. So, supposing you see the rose, the eyes have done their job. You hear the notes of raga hamsa dhvani, then the ears have done their job. You pick up the smell of wonderful wafting pakodas. Of course, it's not in your house, it's in the neighbor's house, you know, and you can't go there because of COVID. So, that, and because of your own prarabdha primarily. So, you can't go there. So, therefore, what, But the nose has done its job, the tongue has done its job. That's why they do this blindfold taste test. What is this? And then you say, aha, this is chocolate cake. Okay, the tongue has done its job. So the proof lies in the revelation. So what am I getting to? So what if you say, why should I know this point 3? What is so big about this point, about the pramanas? Because we have to make sure that the pramana is available to take refuge in the pramana in order to know. It's like the example that Pujya Swamiji always would give. The woman who has emerged from cataract surgery. And in olden days, they used to put a bandage on the eyes for a few days. So they put the bandage on the eye. She had some surgery, cataract or some eye surgery. And then, uh, bandage was put. And then what? Bandage was then removed after a few days. And the doctor said, please open your eyes. And she said, no. What if I cannot see? I don't want to be disappointed. And since I don't want to be disappointed, I'm not going to open the eyes. Well, the operation was really successful. And the doctors talk like this only. There is no reason why you will not see. They will not say you'll definitely see, because then they are looking at a malpractice suit. So they will say, there is no reason that you cannot see from our standpoint. Please, 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 please open your eyes. She says, no, I'm not going to open my eyes, because what if it doesn't work? So she has already concluded. Her fear, her raga dvesha here have made her conclude that she cannot see. And therefore she is refusing to let the pramana prove itself, to let the pramana operate. This is how the pramana works. The pramana has to be allowed to operate in order to bring you the pramana phala, the fruit of the pramana. It will definitely bring, if it is allowed to operate. So, so you have to be patient and you have to be with it. And so therefore what? So therefore, if we know these points, then we can look at some other pramanas that we have at our fingertips. And they are all based on this Mula Pramana alone. This Mula Pramana is also called Pratyaksha. I'm going to write it, Pratyaksha. Pratyaksha is, 5 sense organs. Pratyaksha. And then we have some other things. We have something called one-step inference, Anumana. Anumiyate anena. Through this, it is understood. So anumana, it's like a one-step in inference. And the stock example is uh, when you wake up, you see that the roads are wet, and what do you conclude? Or you could have, maybe you conclude that, well, somebody took a big hose pipe and watered the roads. That would be a wrong conclusion, correct? Yeah, that would be a forced conclusion. That's not the conclusion. The most obvious conclusion in this one step inference is that it must have rained. It rained, therefore the roads are wet. Then this anumana in the shastra is taken to a slightly more fine tuned level. in the form of a multi-step, inference, which is called, arthapatti. And again, I'm writing this down. Anyatha upapattau, meaning no other way is possible, no other explanation is possible. It is called arthapatti, multi-step, what is that? Inference. And if you are confused by this, don't be, because you are using this every day in your life, especially if you have children, teenagers. Where were you? Why are you home so late? Well, I was in my friend's house. I don't think so, because I called all your friends. you know. No, I went to another friend's house that you don't know the name of. You know. Well, you know, it's too late because one of your friends already fessed up. Fessed up means confessed what you have been doing. You know. Let me check your backpack. This is where it is. So the mother and the father have used in this case arthapatti. They have, you know, they better than a GPS. They have tracked, the movement of their teenager here, there, everywhere, and have come to know that not only was the teenager late coming home, violated the curfew, but also had been up to some no good activities. So, you know, this arthapati, don't get confused. If you are a parent, you have used arthapati many times. Apparently, you have to, you know even a small baby, you're taking care of this baby, and then what? It's crying, it doesn't know how to talk. Same cry. And so what do the parents do? Okay, it cannot be nappy change because I just changed the nappy. And she or he cannot be hungry because it ate like a horse, so it must not be hungry. So what is the third possibility? Colic, stomach ache. So what does that mean? Plan to spend the whole night walking up and down the hallway holding the baby, because that's the only thing it will soothe. It cannot be put down even for a second. Even if your arms are falling off, you have to keep holding the baby. Okay? So this is Arthapatti. Very, very nice. And then, so Pratyaksha, Anumana, Arthapatti, and then the multi-step, inference. And then we have one more. It is called Upama. Not what you have for breakfast, that is Upma, but this is, Upama, which is, like a comparison. A known entity is, compared to an unknown entity, so that when you meet or greet the unknown entity, then you have an instant recognition. Please give this package to, so and so. But how will I recognize so and so? I've never met this man, I've never met this gentleman. Well, you've met my brother, haven't you? Yeah, yeah, I know your brother. Well, he is kind of the same build and the same height, as my brother, but just slightly, darker or a lighter complexion. Some differences are also, pointed out. And, this gentleman that you're going to meet, he's got the same build, but, balding, doesn't have hair, wearing glasses. But, so these are some of the differences, but otherwise, the same build, the same kind of body type as my brother, who you know very well. Supposing if somebody were to say, then this person, trots off, armed with a package, and immediately recognizes the person. You see, this is what is called upama. This is also a means of knowledge. Then we have a funny, fellow, and this one is called Anupalabdhi. Anupalabdhi, and what does that mean? Cognizance of absence. This is a means of knowledge. But this is not the cognizance of absence, generally speaking. But this is the cognizance of absence, particularly speaking. What do I mean? You cannot say the whole world is a big zero. like some strains of Buddhism, like what is that, Theravada in Thailand. They say that the world is non, this is everything is non-existent. Whereas if you go, if you look at Zen, and if you look at certain other strains of Buddhism, they're very close, sometimes even identical with Vedanta. When they talk of emptiness, they mean empty of name and form. But on the other end of the country, which is what exactly what we say, we feel like giving them a hug when they say that. It's exactly the same thing. But then there are certain other, what is that, theological strains of Buddhism that say, this world, there is, the truth of this world is all emptiness. Anupalabdhi is not the cognizance of emptiness, because the cognizance of emptiness, about the universe, or etc., cannot be made with a straight face. Is not possible, because then we end up with the question, who is cognizing the absence? Then you say, ayo, it's me. And okay, just tell me, do you exist or not? Well, let me think about it. I suppose I exist. So if you exist, how can you say that you are absent? How can you deny yourself? You know, you exist, you weigh so and so many kilos, and you have this much of a height, and you just had a square meal, so definitely you must exist. And then now you say, this whole I have cognized absence. You cannot cognize absence without reckoning the cognizer, who is very present. And the presence of the cognizer is needed to cognize which absence, can only be a relative absence, not an absolute absence. You can cognize small, small, chota, chota absences. There is no pot in the palm of my hand. This is Anupalabdhi. How do you know? Because I don't see it. Well, you don't, you what do you, but you do see my hand. You do see my hand. It is based on pratyaksha. But when I say pot, the vision of the pot that has arisen in your head, is not seen in the palm of the hand. So this is anupalabdhi, cognizance of absence of a certain thing in a certain place. That's all it means. Okay. And then finally, yeah, these are what we have. These are the five pramanas that we have. This is our bread and butter to relate to various things in the universe. This is how we start our day. Anumana. It must be Monday because I feel wretched. You see, you already had an Anumana. It must be Monday. Oh no, Anumana. So, like this, how am I going to get this done? What am I going to do? Well, last time it was a more difficult assignment at work, but somehow I got that done. I will do it in the same way. Upama. These are things we use all the time. Every time we use these five pramanas. And unfortunately, none of them, not a single one of them is useful to know the Atma. Why? That, Atma is not the subject matter of Pratyaksha. It cannot be seen. Yattadadreksham agrahyam avarnam agrotram apanipadam. That which cannot be seen, Mundakopanishad said, that which cannot be heard. Achakshuhu, ashrotram, it doesn't have ears, it doesn't have eyes, it cannot be heard, it doesn't make a sound, it doesn't have hands and feet, it does not scurry around that you can infer, it is not an object of inference. It is agocharam. Vag agocharam. It is not the subject matter of speech, it is not the subject matter of mind. Yato vacho nivartante apraapya manasa sah. This is one day the Taittiriya Upanishad says, the mind and speech, who are the greatest of friends, decided to go for a walk. You know, Vak, speech, went for a walk with the mind. And then they started to talk amongst each other. And they said, let us conquer the Atma and bring it back. Yay, we can do it. And the mind said, as long as you are with me, oh Vak, I'm ready. I can do this. I just need you with me, because so many thoughts I have. I don't know how to put them into articulation. I don't know, do not know how to express. So please help me. And Vak said, I don't know what to put into articulation, but articulate I can. So you give the thoughts, I will articulate, and together we will copyright the Atma. We will be rich. And not only rich, we will be famous, because we will be doing that which nobody else has done. So they made their intention known in their hometown or in the village where they stayed. And so they got a hero's send off. They were, the people put tilak on their foreheads, they did arati, and then they put garlands, and then gave them a new set of clothes. And the ladies packed their lunches, so because they don't know where Atma is, they may have to go on a long journey. So they trotted off hand in hand, trying to bring back the Atma. And then what happened? They got tired. They could not locate the Atma. The more they looked, the more elusive it was. The mind said, never mind. That's how the expression first came. The mind used the expression, never mind. I don't think I can do this. And the Vak said, I'm getting, dehydrated too. And I'm getting all dried up as well. And if you are not with me, how can I, articulate if you don't see and if you don't tell me what you are objectifying? And so they had gone in broad daylight, promising to bring back the Atma. They, what is that? They sneaked back into their village in the middle of the night, you know, all crestfallen, kicking a pebble down the road out of frustration. And so what? You know, so, Pratyaksha gone, Anumana gone. How do we know Anumana inference cannot bring me Atma? Because, you know, we have Vriddha Vyavahara. Vriddha Vyavahara means some other people have tried beforehand. Vriddha means elderly people. They have tried beforehand. Like who? Of course, the great philosopher Descartes. Descartes said, I think, therefore I infer that I am. I think, therefore I am. So in sleep, did Descartes cease to exist because he was not having any thoughts? No, you know. But thankfully, he was a great philosopher. And then at the end of the life, he reversed it. He said, I am precedes the I think. So I am, therefore I can think, he finally said. In other words, he understood. He was putting Descartes before day horse. This is what happens. This is Anumana. And this is why it doesn't work. Anumana doesn't work. I think, therefore, I must exist. you know. So what? So you have to see this. You have to see this in that Anumana is Atma is not an object of inference. Atma is the truth of the inferer. Inferer is Atma. And so then, if Arthapatti is a sophisticated type of inference, that is also knocked off. No, no Pratyaksha, no Anumana, no Arthapatti. So can we use Upama? Atma is like dot dot dot. You'll keep on saying dot 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 because there's Atma is Ekam. Ekam means what? One and only. Advitiyam. Who are you going to compare it to? In fact, the Vedantic poets, repeat themselves ad nauseum. Atma is like space. That's all they can say. Atma is shines like the sun, self-shining sun. That's all they can say. They run out of metaphors. It's not easy to compose, poems, Vedantic poems in Sanskrit or any language. It's not easy. Because what are you going to compare it to? Shakespeare had an easier time. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Very easy. One sonnet begins like this. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Bright, chirpy with all the birds and full of flowers. You remind me, you're so sunny. You remind me of a summer's day. And what? Summer's day is Atma. Atma is not summer's day. And space is Atma. Time is Atma. Atma is neither space nor time. So you cannot compare it to anything, because whatever you compare it, Atma to is Mithya, Atma is Satyam. And we have seen the combo of Mithya and Satyam. They don't go very well together. They do not belong to the same order of reality. Atma is Paramarthika, and then the whole Jagat, where all the comparisons are there. They are all what? Vyavaharika, empirical. Paramarthika, absolute. So bye bye, Upama. And then what else is left? Anupalabdhi. That I have already told you. You cannot conclude Atma doesn't exist, because you cannot negate yourself, who is the one who is present, upon whose presence depends the absence of all relative things. So then what? What are you going to do? You know? Therefore, what is that? Atmajnana Vishaye Upanishadam Pramanam. Upanishad Pramanam. Upanishad alone is the Pramana. And Upanishad alone is a new Pramana. We have to bring in a new Pramana just for this, because as I've shown you, each and in none of these can be operated to know the Atma as Ishvara. None of these. Anupalabdhi will not take you there. The various inferences, I am, therefore I think, therefore I am, will not take you there. Pratyaksha, it's not available for, any means of knowledge, including the primary mula means of knowledge, the five sense organs. And so, what are you going to do? You have to do Sharanagati in the Upanishad. And we are also told, to make matters more, what is there, interesting, we are told that the Upanishad does not speak on its own. It is Shabda Rashi, it is a heap of words. It needs an amplifier, it needs a microphone, and the microphone, is what? Guru, Phonananda, it's a guru, the teacher. The teacher is the microphone of the Upanishad, amplifies its message for everyone to understand and hear. And therefore, this pramana called Shabda Pramana. Shabda means it is in the form of words that are well handled. Shabda, words. Shabda means words, not simply words. You know, Otherwise, I can just say some, gibberish, and you will not understand anything. If I just say gibberish, that's nothing you're going to understand. What are you going to understand? Zero. And so, therefore, what? Words handled, you know, by a teacher in keeping with what they were taught, in keeping with the traditional unfolding through the sound lineage of Advaita. That is what makes it a pramana. So, you know, it's not just simply words. Because which words? Who decides which words? The Upanishad decides which words. And the teacher handles those words in keeping with how they learnt it, and how their teacher taught them, and how their teacher taught them, their teacher taught them, all the way to Lord Dakshinamurti. सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. I therefore salute the entire lineage, starting with Lord Shiva in the form of Dakshinamurti, right up to my own teacher. I salute them all. So, so this is, a matter of, it's a grave matter, it's not a simple thing to to you know to subject oneself to the words of a teacher, somebody who is speaking from outside, and somebody who I have to trust to wield the words of the shastra and bring the message home to me. This itself raises numerous objections from within the heart. Why should I know from somebody else? Why can't I intuit the Atma? you know, because intuition is not a means of knowledge. Simple. We've already understood the means of knowledge. Why can't I read it by myself? Because your own infrastructure, come of insecurity and self ignorance comes in the way of internalizing the message. Tattvamasi. And if you read, yeah, big deal, you will not understand. So therefore, it has to be unfolded from outside. And then, as the student has to subject oneself to this pramana in order to be transformed. Because, the main difference between these five pramanas that we saw, five, or yeah, five, and this Shabda Pramana, the words handled by the teacher, is that the first five pramanas, the first pramanas that you operate, they have, they have a, what is the, they only are good for dharma, artha, and kama. They are not good to pursue moksha. They cannot give you the freedom that's already your nature, because of the paradox involved, that the words have to reveal to you what you already are, who you already are. Then, then what? Then they cannot do that. And so therefore you need a different, category to reveal the absolute, which is already self revealed, but to reveal it in a manner so that you, as the ahankara, is knocked off. The ignorance is knocked off once and for all. And one more difference, the last difference between the pramanas that you operate and Shabda Pramana, is that the first five pramanas, they, they don't knock off the pramata. The pramata is kept in place. I know this, I know that, I inferred this, cognized that this person wasn't present where they said they would be, they were not. I did this comparison. I saw, I heard. The I, as the knower, is very much sitting in the throne and eating peeled grapes, very much the king of the whole world of pramanas. The pramanas become the servants, whereas Shabda Pramana knocks off the knower. There is only knowing, there is only knowing being, which is Ishvara. The knower as such is knocked off. And that is why it is the final pramana which knocks off the status of the knower. You can say, I know, but there is no I anymore that is identified with the body mind sense complex, or identified with the notion of knowing. Yeah. We went 2 3 minutes over time. I didn't want to leave you hanging. So thank you for your patience. Few more classes, hang in there. It will be worth it. Okay. All right. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. Yeah, some questions are there. Pramana talk, lecture on Pramana always brings questions, which is, they are welcome. So, the first question is, isn't it that Pramana needs previous knowledge? Previous knowledge is there. Yeah, everything needs previous knowledge. Any knowledge has a precondition, like prerequisite. Any knowledge, is expects a prerequisite. So no problem there. It doesn't negate anything that has been said. And then one more question: why cannot Ishvara be known by logic? The same reason why the rose flower cannot be, heard. It can only be seen. Why can't you deduce the color of the rose through by putting it next to the ear? You may put it next to the ear as a fashion statement. Some young teenage girls do that. That's different. But why is it, that it is, because that pramana is of no use. No, it is of no use. It is of no use in revealing Ishvara. Ishvara is you, and logic is something you operate. So the world of logic is used for the finite. It cannot reveal the infinite. And the infinite being self-revealing, you need a special pramana to as though bridge the gap and reveal the truth of your nature. That's why Ishvara being you cannot be known by logic which you operate to know other finite things. Okay? I hope that is clear. Can you please explain Anupalabdhi? How is that not a means of knowledge to know the Atma? Yeah, no problem. So Anupalabdhi means the cognizance of absence. Simply speaking, Atma is never absent. It is which you are, it's always present. Are you here now? Yes. Are you here now? Yes. Are you here now? Yes. So therefore, if Atma is present, how can I use a knowledge, means of knowledge that reveals absence? No use. It is not the right match. Simple. Okay? Yeah. All the best. More we'll see in the next class. Take care. Om Tat Sat.
Thank you.
Om. Thank you. Thank you. Nice to see all of you. Take care. Om.